Welcome to the T1 Determined podcast, where we bridge the conversation of type 1 diabetes and endurance. I'm Joseph Anthony Marcello, a runner, a weightlifter, a mountaineer, and athlete. As someone living with T1D, I'm on a mission to uncover and share science-backed information that drives optimal performance and longevity. And as a storyteller, I'm here to explore and share incredible feats in T1D sports physiology. Let's tackle this together. Today, I'm excited to talk with T1D weightlifter Amanda Mueller. A T1D for almost 18 years, Amanda is a certified personal trainer and nutritionist on top of being an accountant. She now runs an education platform and social media account called Bolus and Biceps. Bolus and Biceps empowers T1D athletes, fitness, specifically in women, and the combination of T1D females focused on overall nutrition and health, by cultivating a community and spreading information on how to best optimize insulin management for desired lifestyle results. Our conversation dives into Amanda's mission and what she does to stay fit while living with type 1 diabetes. We will discuss actionable items, like her specific management during weightlifting routines. I'm grateful for what I learned while talking with Amanda. My hope is that you will learn a lot from her too. As we build this podcast from the ground up and face every slope head on, your support is crucial for our continued growth. Wherever you're listening, please share this episode and others with anyone you think might benefit. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and X at T1D_endurance, on Facebook at T1 Determined, and visit our website, t1determined.net. There, you'll find all our podcast episodes, blog posts, and details about our documentary projects, including our upcoming feature film, Low Blood Sugar at High Altitude. Before we dive in, a quick but vital disclaimer. I am not a medical doctor. The topics discussed and the recommendations shared by myself and our guests are personal experiences and not medical prescriptions. My aim is to foster a community where we can openly share therapy methods and management techniques that work for individuals. I believe comprehensive T1D education and well-rounded glucose management come from learning and listening to a multitude of experiences. You'll hear various approaches, but please remember that not every method or technique will work for everyone. Use this information in a way that best suits you. And always consult your healthcare team and medical professionals before making any changes to your daily routines, management, or therapies. And now, my conversation with Amanda Mueller of Bolus and Biceps. Amanda, thank you very much for joining me today on the T1 Determined podcast.
So glad to be here.
I believe your story is wonderful. We'll dive into all the details, but Bolus and Biceps, I love the name. I came across you. You were the person, to me, you were the Bolus and Biceps person. And I thought it was a great, great twist on the wording. And I would just love a brief introduction to who you are and what you do with type 1 diabetes and weightlifting, and then how you came up with the name Bolus and Biceps.
Yeah, sure. So I have been living with T1D for almost 18 years. I was diagnosed in my mid-20s, so I'm almost 42. Definitely have had my T1D journey evolve, especially in my later 30s and now early 40s. Moving my body, exercise has always been a part of my life, but definitely more so, again, as I've really just tried to tap into looking at long-term sustainable habit building. And I've just found that weightlifting is my jam. It's my love. It's a great way for me to build that lean muscle, which helps with that glucose uptake, which does the magic thing we love, which is create insulin sensitivity. And my mission is just to help people in our space, primarily adult women, understand how they can move their body with confidence and that all movement matters, and feel confident in the gym or even at home to pick up a set of dumbbells and understand that they don't have to sacrifice healthy blood sugars for being able to lift weights. It actually all comes together. And my motto is reps remove doubt. which just means the more repetition we do something in life, but especially related to T1D, we remove that fear and replace it with confidence. So that's what I'm all about in the space, or trying to be, anyways.
Well, that is really inspiring and really awesome, and I really like your point of view of how the fitness and the weightlifting realm of things is to just really prepare you to live a life that you want, an active life, focus a little bit on longevity and just make sure that you're active as a T1D, because oftentimes you think that T1D can come with complications, but if you manage everything right, you can use especially an activity like weightlifting to mitigate those complications.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
So how and you're telling me a little bit that you're new to the space, and I would love to learn about how you now try to empower your followers on Instagram, how it's kind of been growing the Bolus and Biceps concept, and kind of like what's in the wheelhouse and what's has been the start and where are we now?
Yeah, sure. So, funny enough, Bolus and Biceps, my Instagram account, became what it is initially because I was in a season of burnout. And I read an article somewhere, I need to go back and find it, where if you are in a season of burnout, you should start talking about like what you're burned out about. And that almost felt counterintuitive to me at first because I was like, why would I want to talk about something that's already weighing me down? But I found that by being quiet and pushing it down, I was giving it the wrong kind of energy. And so I created my Instagram account. The name, I don't even know how I came up with it. My husband and I were just spitballing ideas. Honestly, I really liked the name Doses and Mimosas at first, but someone already had that. But I think Bolus and Biceps is much better for me. So it just worked out the way it was supposed to be. Um, but I just had to figure out what do I want my Instagram space, my connection to this community to be about. And through some trial and error with different content creation, I've really learned that like I am just more of an educational source. I'm not the funny gal on Instagram with clever memes and reels and things like that. There's so much talent in our space with those kinds of approaches. So I'm just trying to put together almost like mini manuals or mini, crash courses on different things that impact us from food, nutrition, exercise, movement, dialing into our technology, and again, relating it all back to movement and exercise. And I think it's being well received. It's really fun for me because every time I put something together, it's even a refresher for me, or I think about how I could be optimizing something better in my own T1D journey.
Mhm.
But I'm really enjoying it, and now I feel like that burnout is gone, and I feel like I am spending more time talking about T1D than I ever have in almost 18 years. But it gets me excited when I wake up and I open Instagram and I see like comments or questions or, feedback from people or people raising their hand or saying, hey, I read this article, or hey, I went to the gym yesterday for the first time in a decade and here's what happened. And they send me their graph and like, oh my gosh, it gets me so excited and like makes me want to just rinse and repeat and keep
Yep.
doing it. And
Yep.
it's nothing I ever anticipated I would find in this space, but our community is so cool.
It is a really, and even from the stuff that we've posted, I can tell that your goals are very similar, where seeing people coming to us and being like, "We are inspired by you," like that just gives a good feeling, and I think it is so important in our community that we have different platforms associated with different things. Like you said, that you're not the funny person, you're the educational person, you want to be the empowering, but there's room for the funny people. There's room. It's kind of almost like we need all of it. And I think the T1D community, first of all, is a phenomenal community of people that have just been nothing but uplifting. And I think it's important to have kind of each different branch of our T1D community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so important that we continue to fill the space in
Mhm.
ways that empower and inspire one another with, like you said, all different avenues. Because maybe today you need to read a funny meme or watch a funny reel that's relatable, or you need a good cry, or you're really ready to, like, you know, reread that post you saved 2 months ago and dive into it and ask questions. And so much of that is available in our
Yeah.
community on Instagram. And I think we should be continuing to lean into it and share it.
Totally. And the fact that you were having these feelings of burnout, it's something that's experienced across the board with having T1D, and you had the confidence enough to do something about it. That shows somebody else who is going through similar burnout to then maybe do something similar to what you're doing, or at the very least look up to you as inspiration, saying like, it's okay, it's going to get better. I can have actionable items to go forward with.
Yeah, if anyone is listening to this and they are thinking about starting an Instagram account or branching out their social media related to T1D, do it.
Hmm.
Whatever you're comfortable with sharing, you should do it because other people want to hear from you. I fully believe
Completely.
that.
Totally agree with that. So let's dive into a little bit about weightlifting, and you kind of touched upon this a little bit earlier. But I would love to know, why is weightlifting specifically unique and sometimes challenging for someone with T1D compared to, say, a different exercise like cardio or running?
Yeah, sure. So, just big picture, again, we love the term insulin sensitivity, right? And what holistic approaches, what things that we incorporate into our life that empower us to improve and grow that insulin sensitivity. And building lean muscle is absolutely the way to do that. Having consistent movement in our day. And I don't mean running 10 miles every day or hitting 15,000 steps every day. I mean, just getting up from your desk, going outside, walking around the block, taking a lap between chores, around the house. All of those things are going to help improve that insulin sensitivity. But back to weightlifting, not only does it allow us just to be stronger, especially as we age, because it's happening. We're all aging, no matter what the medical industry wants to try to convince us otherwise. We are going to age.
Yeah.
um, I think building that lean muscle is so important, especially for women, but for men too, because we increase that glucose uptake. And what that means, again, at a high level, is that um, that muscle needs some of that glucose to be stored and to help grow that muscle. So it pulls just a little bit more out of our bloodstream. And for me personally, after about 2 years of really pushing myself just a little bit more in my weightlifting, I'm not training for any kind of competition or bodybuilding, just the consistency, right? The natural progressive overload. I was able to reduce my insulin to carb ratio at dinner time. And I know that needing just a little bit less insulin consistently at dinner time is a direct symptom
Hmm.
of that glucose uptake and that insulin sensitivity. And I think that's a successful thing, and something to definitely celebrate. And so I'm trying to share with people in our space, again, especially women, like, move your body. Don't be afraid of the weights. The long-term benefits are really going to be beneficial for us, especially again, as we age with T1D.
And I think that's extremely relatable because a majority of people out there aren't trying to go do insane athletic sports achievements, accomplishments. A lot of people just want to stay in shape for that longevity aspect, for the health aspect of overall. They're not trying to be the strongest person on the planet, but they're trying to be healthy and do what they can do to just be healthy. And that's a
Right.
huge part of the mission that I'm an advocate for, is like, do what you can to be healthy for you, whatever that means for you.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And you don't have to join a gym. You can have a basic set of dumbbells at home or in your garage or in your backyard to start reaping those benefits. If I love the gym, I guess I'm a gym rat at this point. But I'm also personally in a season where I am pushing heavier weights and building those compound movements. So I do need that kind of equipment. But yesterday I didn't have time. So in between meetings, I picked up a set of dumbbells for 30 minutes and I felt great. So again, to your point, it's just about that consistency.
yeah.
And I think the reason that weightlifting can feel so intimidating, and you asked me this before, is our body's response, our blood sugar's response to weightlifting, which is generally an anaerobic activity, is
Mhm.
that our blood sugar increases often during or like the second half of that movement or that exercise, and then afterwards. So like it's not uncommon that we see when we're finished with that weightlifting session, we can start to see those blood sugars rise. And I think there's just a stigma around that. I don't want to eat anything. I don't want to do anything that's going to make my blood sugar rise. But really, our bodies just need insulin. So giving more insulin is just a response to what our bodies need. It doesn't make it bad or wrong. If we didn't have diabetes and we went to the gym and lifted weights, we would have no idea how much insulin our body was naturally producing.
Mhm.
So I think we should keep that idea in mind and not challenge why we need the insulin, but just be empowered to give the insulin so that we can lift the weights.
And I think that's a good point is we have the insulin at our disposal, use insulin as a tool. It actually, in the long run, increases your insulin sensitivity. So it's kind of a give and take of
Mhm.
you will eventually, if you, the consistency, use less insulin. I know, well, specifically for me, I do so much cardio that when I do weightlifting, my body's still catching up from the cardio. So I personally don't see a rise. But if I were to just weight lift, that would definitely be the rise. And a lot of reasons why I love cardio is because I can eat and my blood sugar might go up for a little bit, but then it starts to go down. And I personally love to eat food. So I don't mind. Have the more food for me, the better. It's just like after a run, I'm like, oh, great. Now I get to eat a massive meal. But weightlifting, I don't think it should deter to have that insulin. Sometimes at first, when I first started working out and first started weightlifting, and on days that it's solely just strength, I was afraid to inject that insulin. Because I mean, I didn't know what was going to happen throughout the workout, or if I went into the sauna afterwards, which actually rises your blood glucose as well. But again, it's the comfortability of kind of just being okay with a subtle rise in your blood sugar. And once you do it enough, I'm sure that you can agree is you know when to give that insulin during your workout to even prevent the rise. So it's kind of like, how important do you think it is for your body to go through testing and I'll call it like experiments during your workout?
Yeah, I call it trial and error.
Hmm.
And I think it's such an important thing that we go through in any part of our T1D journey, including exercise. I love to move my body, and my body loves for me to move it. And if I was unwilling to have difficult days with blood sugars, even now, and just gave up, I would never know like how to overcome those challenges. And you're right, there are certain strategies on how you can get ahead of that rise if that's happening for you. And our bodies are dynamic and our bodies love routine. So they're typically going to behave the same way. So if you see that you're about 15 minutes done from your workout and you're starting to see that blood sugar rise, give yourself a little bolus. Especially for me, I know I'm going to eat pretty immediately after a lift. Before I leave the gym or when I'm getting in my car leaving the gym, I give a pre bolus, a pretty strong one, because I know by the time I get home, have my lunch prepared, it's going to be about 20, 30 minutes. That insulin is already working in my system, and that helps prevent that spike and that continued rise after the lift. So, again, all through trial and error. Um, and a little bit of effort, I think, really does allow us to go even further and kind of hit those goals we're looking for.
Completely, completely. And timing is key. And
Yes.
so when you were first starting out weightlifting, were there any surprises with you personally that you discovered going from what your previous activity was probably not as intense in weightlifting, but then slowly introducing yourself into it? What did you personally see with your blood glucose or like a specific aspect that you were surprised about?
So for me, the surprise actually was how much my insulin increased, or not my insulin, excuse me, my blood sugar increased and pretty rapidly. Because similarly to you, I definitely leaned into cardio a bit more. I have a Peloton, so I love to cycle. And the weightlifting that I was doing before almost felt more aerobic because it was like circuit style or a combination. So once I started picking up heavier weights and focusing on bigger compound movements, I was shocked at how my blood sugar would go from like 100 to 200 in like an hour.
Mhm.
And that not scared me, but it startled me. And it was a deterrent at first. I really had to think about, okay, how am I going to approach this? Am I doing something wrong? What steps do I need to take to be able to prevent that?
Yeah. Very, very cool. And again, it's once it was the trial and error. Once you were able to go in, it just you were able to figure it out because you're not just gonna day after day, not gonna let the same thing happen again. You're just gonna figure out what needs to be done. And I'm
Right.
sure now you know exactly what to do. And so when you step into the gym today, what uh if you could walk me through some of your daily routines of prepping to go into the gym and then what you do for management in the gym, and then you said post gym you already eat your lunch.
So I know there's a lot of schools of thought about people working out, fasted versus not. I think it's a personal preference,
Hmm.
especially if you're doing anaerobic versus aerobic activity. But for me, I find that my lifts are going to be the best when my body's fueled.
Hmm.
So I have a breakfast typically between like 8 and 9 a.m. And I give myself the full amount of bolus for that carb count. And because I'm not afraid or I don't personally have an issue with going into a workout with insulin on board,
Yeah,
since traditionally weightlifting does cause that rise, I actually need
exactly.
it.
It's not something like cardio that would increase the insulin reaction.
Right. That's right. Where you might want to back off a little bit, like before you're going for a jog or a run or even cycling. So I give myself that full bolus. My goal is usually to get to the gym between 10 and 11 a.m. I feel like that's kind of like my peak time and it's a good way to break up break up my day. And depending on what my blood sugar is going into that workout, I might give a small pre-bolus or a bolus just right at the start of the workout. I'm recently on a new pump. I'm on the tandem pump. So now I have a basal schedule where we've got some temp basal options and the algorithm is a bit more aggressive. So I'm finding that that's actually helping to support me better than the prior pump therapy I was on.
It's very cool.
And then I am seeing that my line is pretty flat or pretty stable during my workouts. But again, if I see that rise is happening, I'm just going to give a small bolus for it, maybe half a unit or a full unit.
Yeah.
And then as soon as that workout's over, when I get in my car, I go ahead, assess where my blood sugar is, and give that pre bolus to get that insulin working in my system so that by the time I get home and have my post workout meal, which is usually lunch,
Mhm.
I'm about 30 minutes into that pre bolus, deliver the rest of the insulin, and things are pretty steady after that most of the time.
Do you notice any differences depending on the muscle sets, or does it kind of stay consistent because you are still working muscles? But say, for instance, if you're doing
Mm.
back and shoulders one day or legs and abs a different day, is there any differentiation between one of those?
I think that my blood sugar is probably more inclined to rise a little bit faster or more aggressively on leg days because
Yeah,
I can just push more weight, with my lower body. But I also think it kind of just depends on how hard I'm going. I mean, if I feel like I'm having a really strong day and I want to go for a PR, even if it's with an overhead press, I might see a little bit of that rise from that adrenaline and that
yeah,
stress.
yeah,
But again, a little bit of insulin and a celebration of
yeah.
hitting a PR in the gym, totally worth it.
Anytime you set a PR, I think it's worth anything, even if the blood sugar goes up because of your adrenaline. It's well, it'll balance out afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll come back down.
Yeah. And the PR is so important. And I think that having excitement about your workout is very important. Having kind of do you personally you're talking about a PR, but I am a very goal oriented person. When I go to do a workout, I'm like, I just want to meet my goal. And if I do that, to me, that's my game of the day and I win that as if I was an athlete at a sport, even if it's just me running 5 miles. If I make it under a certain mark, I'm like, yes.
I love that mindset. That's great.
Do you have sort of like goals that you're working towards, or is it just PR level based off of the week or the kind of I call it like session that you're in if it's weeks at a time?
So I have some specific goals that I'm working on. Like, I'm working on my pull-ups.
Mhm.
I'd like to be able to do 5 real pull-ups
Yeah,
consistently by the end of the year. I'm at about 2.5
yeah,
right now.
that's a great start.
Pull-ups
So
are
you
hard.
you said real pull-ups, so it's very hard to do real pull-ups, and I tell you that, I mean, just from personal experience doing real pull-ups, I'd rather do less and have them be real full through the movement than do more when it's just like halfway through.
Yeah, same. So I'm incorporating like once or twice a week, just some eccentric movements and things to kind of like build up that muscle strength. Like I love Aussie pull-ups and things like that, just to kind of practice, right? Or reverse hangs, things like that, to try to get my muscles moving and help build up that strength. Sometimes I think I'll chase a little bit of a back squat. What can I be doing here? So it depends on my energy level, how much time I have to play around in the gym. But my goal at this point in terms of movement and exercise is to lift weights 3 or 4 times a week. And then I'm actually also working on some stamina training. And I'm sure, again, as a cardio guy, you'll understand this.
Yeah.
I felt like my stamina was kind of reducing because I wasn't really doing much cycling or cardio anymore. So I think I'm very strong in those like intense push movements, or even the pull movements, kind of almost in a vacuum. But I was finding that my heart rate is getting too elevated. And I was like, oh, this is a sign I need to do some stamina training. So I'm trying to do some cycling or low intensity, like Stairmaster, low intensity level Stairmaster twice a week.
Yeah.
And that's really helping me too. And again, it all comes full circle. It's helping with insulin sensitivity, more stable blood sugars throughout the day, and it's helping me lift weights in the gym.
And to the point, I think that you're creating. So how important is balancing a well-rounded workout routine to you?
Oh, right. It's extremely important. Again, chasing some fun weights on a back squat or, the pull up goal, like we were just talking about, those are fun things, and they're just performance things. But I am really kind of training for life.
Yeah.
So bringing it back to those sustainable habits. What's a routine that I can consistently keep up with and not feel like it's out of control or unattainable for in this super busy season of my life? That's what I'm training for. I'm not interested in trying to lift 5 or 6 days a week. That's not sustainable for me. I'm going to wear myself out. So I'd rather feel really good about what I can accomplish, and continue to naturally progressive overload in that schedule, than me pushing myself past my limits and burnout.
I completely respect that, and I think that's just a smart way to go around things. And you're talking about preparing for life, and I like to use the word longevity because that's my one of my focuses is to just plan out for the future. So on top of weightlifting and throughout your daily routines, day after day after day, what are some other tools or tricks or any techniques that you do or just things that you do throughout life that kind of either prepare you for the gym or just prepare you to just have that focus on your health as a whole?
So I'm definitely a type A creature of habit, very routine. That's the accountant in me.
Yeah.
So even people I think that like me that are very type A and very structured, we can get out of routine too. We can get burnout too. Everybody can. So setting myself up for success by, laying out my gym clothes the night before, making sure my gym bag is packed. My husband and I do meal prep every weekend
Mhm.
to make sure that we've got food and not just for me, and my needs as a T1D and also someone that works out, but my husband works out too. And it's just as important that he's fueling his body too every day. So we set ourselves up that way. I have recently been diving into more nervous system regulation, which I have learned so much from Dr. Brooke Stewart. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her. She has an Instagram account. She is incredible. And taking some time, even 20 minutes in the morning to, initially I wake up, look at my phone, give myself my morning bolus for my coffee, things like that. And then putting it down and stepping away from technology and just kind of that morning buzz of things and kind of resetting my mind. I have seen a direct result in my blood sugar, like that morning rise that I get. And because I like to work out in the morning, it means I'm likely to enter my workout, my weightlifting session with blood sugars a little bit closer to that target that I want to be.
Yeah.
So some basic practices like that really are going a long way.
Mindfulness, I think, is extremely important. I mean, throughout the full day, I practice various mindfulness techniques like meditation in the morning. I even have a journal that just, this is the storyteller in me,
Mm.
write down. I was told by a professor in college for film to just write down your thoughts. He said a good director just writes down the thoughts and allows you to look at life creatively as if life was a movie. Lo and behold, I think there's stories in everything, but it also gets you goal back to the goal oriented. I think having a clear head allows you to realize where you are in the universe, in the world, in the country at the time that you're in, appreciate that, and then look at the life that you want to have and help you work towards that.
It's beautiful. I love that. We absolutely deserve to live the life we are pursuing.
Mhm.
And with some mindfulness, mindset shifts, really just taking the time to create a routine or a system that supports us achieving those goals. I know that can sound really daunting to somebody. How do I get started? Where do I get started? I
Mhm.
mean, getting started in general can sometimes be the hardest part.
Yeah.
But I think when you lay that groundwork and build a foundation, again, the reps remove the doubt, right? Like the more repetition we do of something, the more it empowers us to consistently do the things that you're describing. And from then it just becomes a part of who we are. And I think that it can make all of the things we're trying to do while living with T1D feel a little bit more effortless.
Yeah.
And I think
And
that's really empowering.
it is difficult at first because, I mean, somebody who's just trying to start to just like step away for a second, I mean, right away, their head might go, "What is my blood sugar right now? What is happening? Do I need to pay attention? Do I need to look at it?" But even if it's just for a couple minutes, again, the repetition, comfortable being with it, and it then allows you to getting back to the point of regulating your glucose, regulating your mind. It really is. How much of a mind body connection do you think having T1D is?
Oh, I think it's huge, more so than I ever realized before. I think that we can almost kind of strip down the idea of T1D, and I recently I've learned this in the past, but heard my T1D coach say this again just the other night. Like, the reason we go out of range related to T1D is because we either have too much insulin or too little insulin.
Mhm.
And so when we strip things down to the basics and think about that, and then we start thinking about our body's response to those things, that's when that mindset, right? That connection you're talking about comes into play. And we can start thinking about ways we can be proactive and relate those back to our feelings and our emotions and our actions. And I think it can help us navigate things so much better.
I totally agree, and I just think from where type 1 diabetes was 100 years ago to where it is today, we have the tools to live with it. And it's almost like we now are empowered to be in touch. I always advocate that I look at this as a superpower because I know what my blood sugar is now all the time. Somebody living without type 1 diabetes might not know what their blood glucose is. So I can use that to my advantage to be as healthy as possible, at least with living with T1D.
Yeah, totally. I love that you said it's a superpower because my mindset is so in line with that. My mindset is that as people living with T1D, we're actually high functioning individuals. We may just not yet have tapped into what that means for us, but we really I feel like I sound like Liam Neeson when I say this, but like we have a very specific set of skills. But we do. Like we are really tapped into our own skill set development much
Yeah.
more than people without our disease have. It's because we have so much to manage. So I think if we can take a step back and reflect on all the things that we're responsible for doing and how we do them well and how we can adjust and pivot so quickly, we can tap into those and start applying those in other areas of our life. And again, it's a superpower.
Yeah.
It makes us we're not like everybody else. And that's okay.
Mhm. Being different is okay,
Yeah.
and thinking it's again, we have the ability to give ourselves the insulin, whether it's too much or too little. You either have too much insulin or you don't have enough, but we have that ability to
Right.
adjust if needed.
Yeah.
So now getting into the phase of It is difficult to live with T1D. It's not, and having that mind body connection is very important, but burnout is very real. What are some things on top of the mindfulness that you do to just specifically avoid burnout? Unfortunately, I think burnout is inevitable at some point. So when you do get that burnout, what are some things that you remind yourself that you can get through it?
So, the biggest thing that's helping me with burnout now is sticking to my foundation, but that has taken some time to achieve and figuring out what I want that foundation to be, especially on the days where I feel like I've followed my foundation, I've done everything right, and my blood sugars are still sticky and I can't get them to come down. And it's been 8 hours and I've changed the site, right? Like the list goes on. And you just kind of have to say, okay, I give up. Today I give up. I'm just gonna let diabetes do what it's doing. And I used to not be able to say that comfortably. It's still uncomfortable now, but I can say that, I can give it away more comfortably now because I feel confident in all the steps I took and did the best that I can.
Mm.
So I really try to lean into that now, but before I didn't have a foundation. I mean, I have been this November will be my 18th year
Yeah.
living with T1D, and for the first like 14 or 15 years, my management was poor. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I really felt like I was just checking the boxes, meeting with my endo. If my blood sugar was high, I gave too much insulin. If my blood sugar was low, I ate, glucose tabs or something. I didn't understand. And I think navigating burnout for me right now means spending more time understanding how this disease impacts my body
Mm.
and how I can impact my disease.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely. And I think just having you acknowledge that allows you to kind of be okay with the burnout. I really like how
Mhm.
you put it there that you let yourself have, if the diabetes isn't doing good that day, you let yourself kind of have that day.
Right.
Really, really inspiring. And it goes back to your whole mission of empowerment. How do you implement these ideologies into Bolus and Biceps and how you're trying to spread your education across the internet and social media?
Right now, because of the connections I've made, I've actually been invited to participate in several like courses and educational classes that other coaches are putting on. So, specifically, like I will come in during the movement or exercise piece of that. And so, it's giving me a platform to give my time and my education and my experience to other women who may be familiar with exercise or maybe have been afraid to exercise their entire T1D life. And it's giving me a space where they can be vulnerable and I can inspire them, but also learn from them. Every time someone that I'm coaching or I'm working with shares what their challenge is, that's a learning moment for me too, because it may not be something that I've experienced, but it helps me create sensitivity and understanding on a broader scale in our community. There are a lot of people that are terrified of lows.
Mhm.
And so that's what's preventing them from exercising.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that are afraid of highs that don't ever worry about lows, and that's what's preventing them from exercising. So having that understanding and that exposure to what other people in our space are struggling with, I feel like makes me understand T1D better and hopefully makes me a better coach in those moments too. So I'm really just trying to encourage people and create a safe space for them, a judgment-free zone, if you will, where people can feel like they can send me a picture of their graph, um, tell me about their experience, and we can just talk through it, without the shame or the guilt that you might feel like you're getting in a doctor's office.
Yeah. I think the vulnerability is really key. I think when I was first diagnosed, it was just a lot of fear. So having somewhere, I personally didn't have a place to look for until I discovered that it was out there. I wasn't told, and now we have. I think social media is extremely important because it shows that there is a whole community across the globe. Is there one instance, a specific story that you are most proud of? Somebody reaching out to you that said, like, "Hey, you helped me out today."
Oh, so there have been 2 months this year where
Mhm.
every day I shared my graph. my blood sugar graph, like from the Clarity, the Dexcom Clarity report. And I shared it in stories. Some of the days I was real chatty and had a lot to say about the graphs, and some days I didn't really have any notes. But talk about being vulnerable, because newsflash, my graph does not look pretty every day. I have some pretty wild graphs. And but I just decided, like, this is a vulnerable place. Like, I too am imperfect, an imperfect T1D. And I would even invite people, hey, here's something that happened to me yesterday. Has this happened to you before? Like, drop me a DM. And then I could reshare or repost those comments. And I was flooded in my DMs with people that were responding to those graphs saying, thank you for sharing. This happens to me too, or this was happening to me and I started trying this. Especially a lot of parents, moms who were like, my child or my daughter is a newly diagnosed T1D. This is inspiring me to keep pushing and keep learning and understanding. And that hit me deep in my feels,
Yeah.
because who am I? Like, I'm just another person living with T1D that put my graph out on the internet, but it just means I'm accessible and approachable, and that is so important to me in this space.
Yeah. And I think you put it good where social media is a wonderful tool, but oftentimes we can see a fabricated life
Mm.
being real on social media. And I think it's hard to just put yourself out there, and you want to show the good on the good on the good, and you want to be empowering because you want to send a positive message, so you never want to show the bad, but showing a little difficulty is also empowering. I think being real and upfront about everything that happens with T1D is spreading the reality of the situation while allowing you to be able to manage the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more that I've leaned into understanding and really taking control of my own diabetes, because I subscribe to the mindset that diabetes is not my fault, but it is my
Mhm.
responsibility.
Yeah.
And so with that, I'm taking control, I'm optimizing my technology, I'm understanding my settings so that the the insulin pump that I'm using can support me the best way it can. But again, I'm still in control. All of these practices that I'm putting into place, when I have those really rough days, I can still share them and say, hey, today sucked. And here's where I failed. Or here, I don't know why I failed, but here's what happened today. But again, I can give that away or put that out there, and I still feel confident in what I've done. And I really hope that that inspires other people, that if you're ready to take control, you can have more positive days, and it makes the crappy days a little less painful.
Yeah.
They're still gonna exist,
Mhm.
but every day doesn't have to feel painful.
That's
Most days can feel empowering.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's really, really awesome, and it's an inspiring mission. As somebody who's trying to do a similar mission in athleticism and sports, I think you are inspiring and empowering to women with T1D and athletes like myself with T1D. Where do you see this concept of yours going? I mean, within 1 to 3 years or 1 to 10 years, what is some stuff you're doing now, that is great? Because it's already from the time that we've met when we first initially talked, I've seen so much growth, and it hasn't even been that long. So what's coming up in the pipeline, but also where do you see the future of the concept of bolus and biceps?
So definitely more of the educational piece and the teaching. I'm going to be doing some master classes with Type 1 Together on the pump technology and just ways to approach your blood sugar management. I will be attending the Friends for Life Diabetes Conference in Orlando this summer. It'll be my first official diabetes event or conference. I'm excited about that.
Awesome.
And I've been invited to, at the end of June, to speak on a fitness and empowerment panel with the Breakthrough T1D Southern Texas chapter.
Mhm.
So I just find that the more people I'm meeting and talking to, they want to hear more of what I have to say, which still feels like a surprise every time it happens to me. But I just want to continue to get the message out there that, again, all movement matters. You don't have to be afraid. There's so many resources and people like me who are cheering for you and rooting for you. I hate to say that we don't get the kind of coaching in our doctor's offices,
Mhm.
but there is an incredible group of people on the internet who are providing resources and have courses and training and education options. There's free events that people can go to. And so I just want to keep pushing people in those directions to know like they don't have to feel lost. There's people in their corner, there's resources available to them. So I hope to just have more of that in my future, more events to speak at, more people to meet and learn from, more athletes like yourself, more people that are in the exercise and education space talking about T1D because I don't ever want to be the smartest person in the room when it
Mhm.
comes to this kind of stuff. I'm so hungry for the information. So if I can learn and then break it down in sustainable sections for people and pass that on via social media, that's what I want to do.
I'm sure you'll agree with this when you've talked to a lot of people, a lot of T1Ds, as I have with all different walks of life. And I can tell you, even the T1Ds who have accomplished ultra marathons, even the T1Ds who are in high end medical healthcare positions, not a single one of them has claimed that they are the utmost expert. And I think that's great. It's a
Yeah.
wonderful mindset. A lot of industries and fields, not that T1D is an industry, but just the community itself don't have that. It's not competition to be better than another person. And I think that's so important for those who are newly diagnosed, those who have been living with T1D and want to either change their habits or find ways to focus on their health more.
Yeah, I totally agree.
What would you say to, again, either somebody who has been newly diagnosed or somebody who has been living with T1D and wants to take a step to refocus on their health? Kind of like a message of motivation or any sort of insights that you'd like to share.
So I know that being able to work with a coach, like hiring a coach is a luxury. Not everyone can afford that. If you can, and there are a lot of coaches who offer, payment plan options and things like that. I have learned so much from group or individual like one-on-one coaching. So if that is something that you can look into, I would encourage people to do that. Um, I would also encourage people to have a presence on Instagram, on social media, even if you don't want to be sharing, create an account. You can be quiet, but learn. There's a lot to learn. I know there's a lot of people saying a lot of stuff. There's a lot of noise, but there's some really great people out there that are sharing incredible information. Um, but my number one thing I would tell people out of the gate, because I didn't do this until like the last couple of years, was understand how your body responds to insulin and what those needs look like. For me, as someone who uses pump therapy, so I wear an insulin pump, right? Was understanding the settings, how the
Mm,
algorithm works, and then how to feel empowered to make those adjustments on my own. And that's all done in baby steps.
mm.
But it's not a lesson that we learn in the hospital or in a doctor's office.
No, for sure.
So it's something we have to take responsibility to learn on our own. Again, there's a lot of coaches, a lot of tools and resources on the internet available. I try to put out content that backs that up too. But if you can learn how your body understands or how your body responds to insulin and feel empowered to adjust based on your body's needs, I think that's a huge first step, but it's a great foundation to lay for yourself.
Totally agree. And the foundation is key. And for me personally, using pen therapy, that was finding out at which point does insulin kick in for me once I've
Mhm.
injected. And then at which point the certain foods I'm eating per that day, when do they the carbs of those meals kick in and kind of timing it up. I think that's very much of a key to management and also understanding your body so you can build that foundation that you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, the digestion, timing, and the insulin duration and insulin administration timing, it's all it's all so important. And I know it can make your eyes roll in the back of your head, but I mean, it's what keeps us alive.
Yep.
But it can go beyond just keeping us alive. Like we can live full, happy, healthy lives when
Mhm.
we understand it. And I think it's our responsibility to understand it. It may not be something we thought we'd ever sign up for, but it's here, it's in our face, and
Mhm.
you can either push it away or you can just grab it.
So, Bolus and Biceps, if you want to give just how people can reach out to you, via Instagram account or any other way, and how they can get kind of the interaction, engagement, and learn more about your masterclass as well.
Yeah. So, like you said, you can find me on Instagram at Bolus and Biceps, or you can find me via email at amanda@repsremovedoubt.com. But at this point, I'm probably too active on Instagram, but I can't get away from watching all the amazing things people in our space are doing. So I'm always in my DMs. I try to put up 1 or 2 posts a week of educational content, very active in stories, sharing different resources or classes or courses I'm going to be involved in, or sharing other classes that even if I'm not involved in them, other people that I really admire in the space are putting on too. So that's where you can find me and connect.
When I was first starting T1 Determine, and I actively am still, it's still very much in the beginning phase. You were one of the first accounts that I followed. I can tell you that part of my personal mission is trying to learn and grow. And from following you and also from our conversation today, I have learned an immense amount and I am inspired. And the knowledge that I've gained, I think you empower women with T1D and athletes with T1D. And I can't thank you enough for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for creating a space for me to share my story and hopefully reach a few more people. I really appreciate it.
That's the goal, is to reach out. Even if we impact one person's life, then I said we did our job today.
Totally agree.
Thank you very much, Amanda.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to my conversation with Amanda Mueller of Bolus and Biceps. It is clear that her mission aligns with our attempt here at T1 Determined to spread awareness and education surrounding T1D and sports physiology. Thank you, Amanda, for helping to amplify that message. You can follow Amanda on social media at Bolus and Biceps. For all our content, including details on our upcoming documentary, Low Blood Sugar at High Altitude, please visit t1determined.net. Connect with us on social media. Find us on Instagram, TikTok, and X at T1D_endurance, and Facebook at T1 Determined. We will have announcements soon on our expansion to more social platforms. Until next time, keep pushing your limits. I hope this helps. Stay strong, stay determined. T1 Determined.